Gather round once more, dear listener, as I unfurl before you an even more intricate tapestry of quiet heroism, hidden dangers, and the relentless pursuit of truth, a saga that winds its way through the sterile corridors of a seemingly ordinary office, where beneath the glistening surfaces of glass and steel lay secrets dark enough to unravel the lives of those who dared to ignore them. Our tale centers on Mira, a diligent and unassuming professional whose outward routine masked an inner fire, a burning resolve to confront injustice wherever it might hide. Every morning, as the city awoke to the chorus of honking cars and chattering crowds, Mira stepped into the towering high-rise that housed her company, a modern palace of commerce that, to the casual eye, epitomized success and order. Yet, in those endless corridors lined with cubicles and silent conference rooms, Mira's keen eyes began to catch fleeting details that did not belong. A misfiled document here, an unusual ledger entry there, like stray notes in a symphony that hinted at a dissonant undercurrent. It began with the minutiae of daily operations. Mira, ever meticulous in her work, noticed that the financial ledgers sometimes carried inexplicable discrepancies. Small sums were siphoned off to accounts that bore no resemblance to the company's legitimate business dealings. Initially, she dismissed these as mere clerical errors, a consequence of human fallibility in a vast institution. But as weeks turned into months, the anomalies grew bolder, their pattern too deliberate to be chance. Late one autumn evening, as the golden hues of sunset bled through the high-rise windows, Mira found herself alone in the hushed office. The silence, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning and the rustle of paper, seemed to whisper secrets of its own. While poring over a routine financial report, Mira's eyes were drawn to a series of irregular transactions. Numbers danced on the screen in a covert language of corruption, payments to obscure accounts, expenses that defied logic, and ledger entries that told a story of hidden embezzlement. The trail led inexorably to one person, the company's esteemed manager, Mr. Harrison. To the public and to most of his colleagues, Mr. Harrison was the very embodiment of corporate excellence. Yet beneath his polished exterior, Mira sensed a web of deceit spun with chilling precision. Each misaligned digit, every shadowy note in the fiscal records, pointed to a darker truth, that greed and corruption had festered within the walls of this institution. Night after night, Mira returned home with the weight of her discovery heavy upon her shoulders. In the quiet solitude of her modest apartment, illuminated only by the soft glow of a desk lamp and the distant pulse of city life, she spread out the evidence before her like a map of hidden treachery. Photocopies of memos, printed emails, bank statements, and financial reports formed a mosaic, a pattern that screamed of deliberate manipulation. Her mind, once content with routine tasks, now raced with possibilities. What had started as a series of small irregularities was now blossoming into a full-blown scandal that could shake the very foundation of her company. Yet, despite the fear that threatened to freeze her resolve, Mira felt an indomitable urge to act. The idea of silence in the face of wrongdoing was anathema to her. To do nothing would mean betraying not only her own integrity, but also the trust of countless employees who believed in the company's mission. With her heart pounding like the timpani in a grand symphony, she made the agonizing decision to take the evidence to the local authorities. Under the shroud of anonymity, Mira arranged for a discreet meeting with a plainclothes officer, carefully outlining the labyrinth of deceit she had uncovered. Her voice, though trembling with apprehension, carried the clear note of conviction that justice must prevail. The phone call was brief but laden with portent, and as Mira set her evidence in motion, the office atmosphere transformed. In the days that followed, a palpable tension gripped every corner of the building. The once familiar hum of productivity now echoed with furtive whispers and sideways glances. Colleagues who had once exchanged warm greetings now regarded her with a mix of caution and silent curiosity, as if they sensed the undercurrent of change that had been set in motion. Every sound, the clatter of keyboards, the creak of office chairs, seemed magnified, a constant reminder that her secret was teetering on the brink of exposure. As the investigation gathered momentum, the threads of corruption began to unravel in a way that was both breathtaking and terrifying. The police, methodical and relentless, combed through every record, interrogating employees and piecing together the hidden mosaic that Mira had painstakingly assembled. Each new piece of evidence added another layer of complexity to the case, implicating not only Mr. Harrison, but hinting at a broader network of malfeasance that reached into the upper echelons of the company's hierarchy. The revelation that such a respected figure could orchestrate a scheme of such magnitude sent shockwaves through the institution and rippled outward into the community. Amidst the turmoil, Myra's inner life became a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. There were nights when she lay awake, haunted by the possibility of retaliation, her thoughts a turbulent blend of fear, guilt, and fierce determination. In the quiet moments before dawn, she questioned her own strength, wondering if the burden of truth was too heavy for one person to bear. Yet, with every pang of self-doubt came a renewed resolve. Mira knew that the integrity of her soul depended on her willingness to stand against corruption, no matter the personal cost. Meanwhile, the atmosphere within the office grew ever more fraught. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves in a storm, carried on the tongues of anxious employees and whispered behind closed doors. Mr. Harrison, once a paragon of corporate authority, began to show signs of strain. His confident stride was replaced by furtive glances, and his once commanding voice now wavered with uncertainty. Every meeting became a stage for a silent drama, a man wrestling with the knowledge that his carefully constructed empire of deceit was crumbling before his eyes. Then came a fateful morning that would forever be etched in the annals of the company's history. As rain fell in a steady, somber cadence against the office windows, plainclothes officers arrived unannounced. The air was thick with anticipation and dread as employees watched in stunned silence. In one fluid motion, Mr. Harrison was led away in handcuffs, his face a mask of disbelief and shame. The arrest was swift and decisive, a moment of reckoning that shattered the facade of respectability and exposed the underbelly of greed and deception. In that charged instant, the collective breath of the office seemed to catch, as if the building itself were witnessing the collapse of a long-standing illusion. For Mira, the arrest was a bittersweet victory, a culmination of her quiet rebellion against a system that had long hidden its misdeeds in plain sight. Yet even as the news reverberated through the corridors of power and reached the eager ears of local media, Mira remained in the background, her role a secret known only to a trusted few. Her contribution, though monumental, was shrouded in anonymity, a silent testament to the fact that true heroism often thrives in the shadows. While headlines blared about the downfall of a corrupt manager, Myra's identity was preserved, her courage immortalized not by public acclaim, but by the quiet transformation that had taken root in the hearts of those who believed in justice. In the aftermath of the scandal, the company was forced to confront its own demons. A comprehensive internal review led to sweeping reforms, with new policies and oversight mechanisms put in place to prevent the recurrence of such malfeasance. The scars of corruption remained, a stark reminder of the perils of unchecked ambition and the corrosive influence of greed. Yet, amidst the rubble of shattered reputations and broken trust, a seed of hope began to sprout. Myra's actions had sparked a broader awakening, a realization that even in the most sterile of environments, the human spirit could ignite a flame of accountability and renewal. As the months passed, Mira found herself navigating a transformed workplace. The once oppressive atmosphere had given way to a cautious optimism, tempered by the lessons of the recent past. She returned to her daily tasks with a newfound sense of purpose, her every keystroke a silent tribute to the ideals of transparency and fairness. Colleagues, though still reticent, began to express a quiet gratitude for the changes that were slowly reshaping their world. In whispered conversations over coffee and furtive glances exchanged in the corridors, there was a shared understanding, a recognition that the dark days of corruption had, at last, been relegated to the annals of history. But even as the company took tentative steps toward redemption, the echoes of that tumultuous period lingered. Mira, ever the vigilant guardian of truth, knew that the battle against corruption was far from over. The case had unveiled only the tip of an iceberg, a vast network of deceit that extended beyond the confines of one office building. In the quiet moments of reflection, as she reviewed the evidence archived on her computer, Mira often found herself wondering about the unseen forces that had allowed such corruption to thrive for so long. Who else was complicit in this intricate web of dishonesty? And what further sacrifices would be demanded of those who dared to challenge the status quo? Driven by an insatiable curiosity and a deep-seated sense of justice, Mira embarked on a subtle quest to uncover more of the truth. In the hushed hours of late evenings, when the city was wrapped in darkness and the world outside slumbered, she delved deeper into financial records and internal communications. Each new discovery was a thread in a larger tapestry, a pattern of collusion and greed that spanned not only her company, but hinted at connections with other powerful entities. The further she probed, the more she realized that her solitary act of bravery had only scratched the surface of a much broader conspiracy. And yet, with each new revelation came the heavy burden of knowing that the forces she was challenging were formidable indeed. As word of the scandal continued to ripple outward, Mira found herself the reluctant subject of both admiration and suspicion. While some hailed her as a modern-day whistleblower, a beacon of integrity in a corrupt system, others, envious or fearful of the truth, sought to undermine her credibility. Anonymous emails, subtle digs in hushed conversations, and the ever-present threat of retaliation cast a long shadow over her newfound role. Yet, through it all, Mira maintained an unwavering focus on her mission. With every challenge, her resolve only strengthened, a quiet defiance that radiated from her like the steady glow of a lighthouse in a storm-tossed sea. In one particularly poignant moment, Mira recalled the long hours spent alone in her apartment, surrounded by piles of documents and the distant murmur of a city that never truly slept. The solitude, once a source of comfort, had become a crucible in which her determination was forged. She remembered the tremor in her voice as she made that fateful call to the authorities, the feeling of being utterly alone in her quest for justice. And yet, in that moment of vulnerability, she discovered a profound truth, that the strength of one's convictions could illuminate even the darkest of paths. It was a revelation that steeled her for the uncertain road ahead, a road fraught with peril, but also illuminated by the promise of a better, more honest future. As the investigation expanded, drawing in auditors, legal experts, and even journalists eager for a scoop, the full extent of the corruption became painfully clear. The network that Mira had uncovered was vast, implicating not just a single manager, but entire circles of individuals whose loyalties lay with profit rather than principle. In boardrooms where decisions were made behind closed doors, the seeds of deceit had been sown over years, nurtured by a culture of silence and complicity. The revelation sparked a nationwide conversation about corporate ethics and accountability, forcing regulators and policymakers to re-examine the very foundations of business practice. Yet for Mira, the journey was far from over. Even as the institution began to rebuild, she continued her own quiet crusade, seeking out the truth in every overlooked detail, following trails of evidence that others might have dismissed. In her heart, she knew that justice was not a destination, but a continuous journey. The scars of the past, though slowly healing, would always serve as a reminder of the fragile balance between integrity and corruption. And as long as there were those who were willing to listen to the quiet murmur of their conscience, the hope for a brighter, more transparent future would endure. Now, dear listener, as you reflect upon this extended saga of Mira, a tale that spans the quiet heroism of an individual act to the seismic shifts in a corporate empire, Remember that the fight for truth is an ever-unfolding narrative. It is a reminder that even in the most unassuming settings, the courage of one person can ignite a revolution of accountability, and that the light of integrity, no matter how faint, can dispel the deepest shadows of deceit. Myra's story is a living testament to the power of persistence, a call to all who believe in the righteousness of truth to stand firm in their convictions, regardless of the personal cost. So, as you carry these words into your own life, may you find inspiration in the quiet strength of Myra, the woman who transformed whispers of corruption into a roar of justice, who dared to challenge the entrenched powers of a corrupt system, and who, through her relentless pursuit of truth, helped pave the way for a future defined not by greed, but by honor and accountability. And may you, too, listen to the subtle call of your conscience, knowing that sometimes, in the unremarkable tapestry of everyday life, heroes are born and legends are quietly written in the annals of time.